Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name's Steve Roberts, and I work for Holborn Assets, and I have done for the last 14 years. A couple of things to mention about the webinar. There is a Q&A button at the bottom and a chat box. You can use either to ask any questions. I will address these at the end of the presentation. So I will get to your questions at some point after we've finished. So please use the chat box and the Q&A buttons at the bottom, and we'll get there after we've finished. Okay, so I'll start off by talking about Holborn first. Holborn Assets are a financial institution. We've been going since 1998. We're celebrating 27 years this year. And we have over $2 billion under management, over 20,000 clients. We also have 19 offices in 13 countries around the world. So we're a pretty big deal, and it's obviously we're not hard to find when it comes to doing your due diligence before we get started on your program. And of course, we will send out information to everyone who's attended to help you do that at the after we finished. Okay, so what we're talking about today. So today we're talking about how to get you and your family to the United States and gaining permanent residency using the EB3 program. We'll be talking about the process, we'll be talking about the timeline, we'll be talking about the costs, and then we'll get to your questions, and we'll get to that as soon as we can. Okay. So first of all, the EB3 program is the cheapest and most popular citizenship program in the world. Holborn have worked very hard in simplifying the process and breaking it down into sort of 6 easy steps. So what I'm going to do is sort of tell you the steps, and then we'll go into detail about each step and sort of fill in the details around each step. So first of all, the 6 steps we need to go over. So first of all, we need to identify one main applicant per family who is happy to take a qualifying job from an American employer. Number 2, we then need a qualifying job offer from an American employer. Number 3, we will then need to obtain a labour certificate for the main applicant. Once we achieve that, we will then need to apply for the I-140 Green Card approval for the main applicant and their spouse and their children, if applicable. Children must be under the age of 21. Once we get the approval card or approval for the Green Card for the whole family, we will then obtain an appointment at your local consulate, the USA consulate, where we will present your case and supporting documents, and we will seek approval from the American consulate to get the visa we need to travel to the US. Once we're approved by the consulate, we're on our way to the USA. So those are the 6 steps. Let me go into each detail on each step. So number 1, at the end of the meeting, I will share a QR code so you can book a personal meeting with myself, and we can talk one-on-one, and we can go over your family structure, and we can discuss who in your family would be best to become the main applicant in your household. That's obviously very important. Once we get the main applicant, we can then move forward. Number 2, once we've decided on that and completed our background checks on the family and collected your documentation from you, we will be in the position to be able to offer that main applicant a job offer from our American partners. At this point, I want to explain that we are fortunate enough to have a fantastic employer in the United States who we're partners with, who are very experienced with the USA immigration authorities, and they're happy to offer our clients a basic job offer that qualifies for EB3 and enables us to apply for the visa. In fact, the whole procedure hinges on this. as without an American company behind us, we couldn't proceed with the process. This process will take around 1 to 2 months for us to collect your documents and offer you the position. So the next step would be, once we've got the job offer in hand, this allows our admin team and legal team to apply for your labour certificate for the main applicant. This will take around 12 to 15 months. It doesn't really matter where you are in the world, or there's no way of fast tracking this. The labour certificate is from the Labour Department in the USA, and there's no speeding this process up. So unfortunately, that's the sort of long wait in this, where we have to wait for the labour certificate to come through. And we don't have any control over the Labour Department, unfortunately. So we do have to sit tight and wait for the labour certificate. Once we've received the labour certificate, we can then apply for the I-140 Green Card approval. Now, our admin team will apply for this for you, and they will include your family members in this application. So this is where we all get approval for a green card for you and your family. After we've had the approval for the main applicant and their family on the green card, we will then be able to make the appointment at the United States consulate in your country, where we would then go along and present all the documents that we've received so far: job offer, labour certificate, I-140 green card approval, and your personal documents, things like passports, birth certificates, marriage certificates, and so forth. And the consulate will then perform a check and make sure you are who you are, your children are your children, your wife is your wife, and the job is legitimate, and you are prepared to move to the United States to take this job on. And you'll be fully supported in this by our admin team, who will talk about what to expect at this interview. So again, the consulate appointment is another, depending on where you are, it can vary. It can be as little as 6 months to get an appointment, or it can take over a year to a year and a half to get an appointment, depending on your situation, where you are, your nationality, where you're based. But we will assist you in that. So the whole process, if we take it from start to finish, it could be as quick as 2 years, but it could be as long as 3 years. But 2 to 3 years, your family will all be approved for the USA Green Card, and you will arrive in America as a permanent resident. Once we're approved from the consulate, they will give you and your family a visa to travel to the United States. So once you get to the United States and when you land, you will present this visa and say, okay, I've received my visa for the consulate to collect my green card. They will take you into the back room, the good back room, where they will welcome you into the country and issue your status as permanent resident green card holder in the United States. Okay, at that point, you are now permanent residents in the United States, but the main applicant has to go and start the job that we've given. We will discuss the job in a second. I will talk about what qualifies as the job and what jobs we're giving out. And I'll explain why we offer what we offer. But this is the process part. So once you get to America, you will receive your green card, and the main applicant has to go and start that job. So once you've started that job, your constitutional rights are in place, and you are, having to start that job. However, once you've started that job, as soon as you've started that job, you are free to look for other employment if you wish. You can stay in the job if you wish, and you can find either more skilled labor, or you can start your own business. But you are free then to live as an American citizen. So you can treat this job like any other job. So you can either stay there, or you can look for a more skilled job or more suitable job if you wish. Let's talk about the jobs that we offer. So what we offer is an unskilled route. Now, obviously, a lot of people worry about this and they say, well, I'm highly qualified. I'm a dentist, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer. And if you try and get an unskilled job, or sorry, a skilled job, sorry, the American employer has to prove why you are better than an American citizen for this job, which is totally impossible. I mean, how do you prove you're a better banker or a better dentist than an American banker or dentist? It's actually impossible. So, you know, it really does limit the chances that we can offer if we do a skilled route. So we offer an unskilled route. But it doesn't mean you're stuck in that unskilled route. It doesn't mean that, you know, you have to stay with that job forever, and you're not there on an unskilled visa either. You're just there on the unskilled route. But once you are permanent resident, you are free to look for other jobs, more skilled jobs, because you are now a resident. So when it comes to another employer, you don't have to explain why you're better than the next guy because you're a permanent resident. The trick to moving on from the unskilled position is having a genuine reason for leaving. You know, you mustn't just turn up one day for work and decide I'm leaving. You know, that would cause a problem. Obviously, the American employer would say, hold on a minute, this guy's just turned up for work and he's obtained a green card and he's disappeared. You know, we're not in for that. We've got to do it properly. What you've got to do is start the job with a good heart and willing to do the job. And once you've started the job and, you know, you're settled and you've found an apartment and your kids are at school and you've settled nicely, then go looking for a proper skilled job using your credentials to do so. And once you've found one, we need to have something in writing to say, okay, I'm moving on because I've found a better job. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that is the American dream. I mean, if you look back, Americans are built up of a multiple of nationals, Italian, Hispanic, Spanish, Jamaican, African, and they're all sort of heritage is from a foreign land. So they all came over at one point, and they all started at the bottom and worked their way up. And that's what this visa is based on. And that's what we offer. Is basically a job to get the process done and a job to start you off. And so you can start on your journey in the United States. The company we deal with in the United States is a recruitment firm, and they are perfectly legitimate, and these are real jobs. They pay, you know, anything between $36,000 and $40,000 a year. They are genuine jobs that these employers really want you to work. So, you know, it could suit you, or you could use it as a springboard into something better. They also come with medical aid and a pension. So they are decent, respectable jobs, but they are on the unskilled basis. So what we're looking at here is the recruitment company that will employ you. Once we get further into the process, will interview you and offer you the jobs that they have available in certain areas. We have 3 areas available at the moment. The others are quite full, but we have areas in Indiana, Pennsylvania, and California. You can choose one of these areas, and once we get closer to your consulate visit, the recruitment company will interview you and discuss which job is suitable for you. It will be something like basic office work, auditing, packaging, cleaning, warehouse work. It will be something within the unskilled sort of genre, and you would have to pick one of those jobs. Okay, so the next part of that, so we've talked about the jobs, we've talked about the process, and we've talked about the timeline. So the timeline is anything between 30 to 36 months. That's how long the whole process will take. I think the next thing to talk about really is the cost. So the cost of this would be for a main applicant, it would be $45,000, and then $3,000 for subsequent family members. So if you're a family of 4, as an example, it would be $45,000 for the main applicant, $3,000 for the subsequent family members. So if you're a family of 4, as an example, it would be $45,000 for the main applicant, $3,000 for the subsequent family members. So if you're a family of 4, as an example, it would be $45,000 3,000 for your spouse, 3,000 each for your children. So a total of $54,000. The good thing, though, is we do offer a payment plan, and we don't expect you to pay for that all in one go. We put that into a payment plan of 3 different payments, and we do it on a progression basis over the 2 to 3 year period. So, we do it as we progress, and this is part of our sort of keeping things nice and risk-free. So you would make a payment of, the first installment, and then we would take your documents and offer you the position and apply for your labour certificate. Once we've received your labour certificate in 12 to 15 months, we would then expect you to pay the second installment. And then we would apply for your Green Card I-140 approval. Once we've achieved that, we would then ask you for your third installment, and then we would prepare your case for the consulate. So it's 3 simple payments over the period of 2 to 3 years, depending on how long this is taking for you. That's the process, that's the price, that's the jobs. I'm happy to take your questions, so please keep your questions coming in using the Q&A and chat buttons below. Another question that we receive is, what's your success rate and how good are you at this? And, what's the risks involved? I think those are really valid questions. First of all, our success rate is 100%. And that sounds fantastic and almost unbelievable, but there is a reason for it. Our success rate is 100%, but there is a but. Before we do any business with any client, and before you sign anything, before you pay any money, we will perform a background check. Our lawyers are very, very fussy about who we include on this program. So they will make sure there's no issues in your background that could stop this process. I mean, immigration is a constitutional right, and it's a tick box exercise. However, if we can't tick a box, then we're not going to be able to get this completed. So the background check is necessary for both us and you. So what we would do is perform a check on criminality, immigration statuses, visa renewals or visa refusals. And we would check all of these things out before you sign anything, before you pay. So we would make sure that you're good to finish this. If we start this, we can finish it. That's the first part of the sort of risk analysis. Secondly, of course, as I've already mentioned, we do a 3-part payment. So you split the cost over a period of 2 to 3 years. So you're not paying everything in one go. We're doing it as we progress. Of course, when we start your application, we will also be giving you a case number, which you can follow and track on the US website, the official US Labour site, and USCIS website as well. This will show you that it's a legitimate case, and you can follow the status of your case at any time without even speaking to us. So you have the security of a real case number on the real website in the USA. And to top all of that, in our contracts, we do put in a refund clause. Touch wood, we've never used it, but on the absolute rare occasion, if it ever happened and you were denied at any stage in the process, at the labour certificate side or the I-140 stage or the consulate stage, we do put a refund clause in our contracts that we will refund everything that you've paid us, less anything that we've spent on you. Of course, we have to pay admin team and legal teams to perform certain tasks through your application. And of course, the outcome of the answers, whether it's a yes or a no, is irrelevant to the fact that they've prepared your case and applied for you. So we offer a definite 50%, but it could be more depending on where we are and where the refusal took place. And of course, we would also have a resubmission clause in the contract as well before we did the refund. So it does include a resubmission if there's just a slight issue. And if that failed, then we would go to the refund clause. But touch wood, we've never had to use it. We have an award-winning, world-class admin department, and probably the best lawyers in the United States for immigration. So we are backed by a fantastic team. I think that is most things. And I will head to the questions in a moment. One more thing we should discuss is Donald Trump and how his administration is affecting immigration and programs like this in the United States. So, first of all, regarding Donald Trump, I mean, Donald Trump is very outspoken on immigration and lots of other things for that matter. And he does talk in headlines. He'll say a statement, but there's very little detail when he actually says things. I mean, he's mentioned already, he's talking about getting rid of EB-3, which is the investment route, and introducing a golden visa for 5 million. But there's no detail around it. And there's a reason for that. EB visas like EB3, which we're talking about today, and EB-5, the investment route, the two EB visas are protected in law. He can't just change them. They are protected by American law. In fact, he even supports legal routes into the United States, which these two are. What he's actually outspoken against is illegal immigration. So he talks about travel bans and temporary visas and non-immigrant visas, things like B1, B2, and the process behind that in certain countries. And I actually agree with him. I think he's right. If people are staying there illegally or overstaying visas or sneaking into the country and living there illegally, they don't have the right to. And I think he's right to address it. But how he addresses it sometimes can come across a little bit confusing and a little bit, what does he mean? So I think just to put your mind at rest, EB3 is absolutely protected by law. If he wanted to change this visa, he would have to first of all go through Congress and get them to agree to the changes, whatever he proposes. And then even if he supported, it's still protected until 2027. So he can't change anything until 2027 anyway, even with the full support of Congress. Excuse me, which he's finding in that tough anyway. But even if he did, it's still protected till 2027. And even then, if he wanted to change the law, if your application is already in, he cannot apply the law retrospectively. So he can only set a date in the future as to when it would stop. He can't stop previous applications. They have to see those through. That's law. So it all ends up with a very secure, very legal route, the cheapest route to citizenship, I might add, in the world. I mean, EB3, although it gives you a green card, it also leads to an American passport. Once you've settled in America and lived there for 5 years, for 6 months of the year, for 5 years straight, you are entitled to apply for an American passport. So taking that into consideration, when you take the cost of around $50,000 for a family of 4 to get permanent residency in the United States, leading to an American passport for 4 people, it's really good value. And it really is the cheapest and best program in the world. I think I'm going to go to the Q&A now and questions that might be online. I can see there's quite a few built up there. So I will address those now. I will also share a QR code on the screen. The QR code is basically something you can use with your phone or whatever device you have to scan it, and you can book a meeting with me directly, one-on-one, so we can just discuss your situation and your family issues or any problems you might have or any questions you might have and you want to do them personally. It gives you a link straight to my diary where you can click and book a meeting with me. Let's discuss some questions and see where we are. Hopefully I've covered everything, but you never know. Let's see what we've got. Okay, what are the chances of getting the Labour certificate from the Labour Department? Okay, let's talk about that. So recently, me personally, I've had 18 cases due for their labour certificate now, and we've received all, every single one. The reason for that is probably because the employer is key, as I mentioned. Our employer, we've worked with them for 12 years. They're very experienced, and they're also known at the US CIS. So to do the application, we're very thorough in terms of getting your documents together, and the employer is key to applying for your labour certificate. We've never had a refusal. I do believe we've had to resubmit one or two, but we've always received them eventually. So yeah, I would suggest with our process, and our figures don't lie, we do have an 100% record with that. Next question is there a requirement in terms of educational certification? Good question. As this is an unskilled visa that we're going for, or the unskilled route, it's not an unskilled visa, it's an unskilled route. There is no education certification required. There is no monetary requirement. There's no language. Well, there's a small language requirement. You do need to be able to speak English, obviously, to get on in the United States. English is their first language, so you do need to be able to speak a certain amount of English. But in terms of education certification, it doesn't matter if you are a law degree or you have no degree. We do take anyone on the unskilled route because that's the beauty of it, right? Next question is, considering the backlog for EB3, which is still at April 1st, 2023, can this process be completed within 36 months? Absolutely. And I think what you're referring to there is the visa bulletin, and what you're referring to there is the backlog they have in terms of consulate consultations. Yes, there can be a 6 to 12 month wait for your consultation, but the visa bulletin can be quite a complicated thing to discuss. I mean, I'm happy to do it, but the dates that they give are, one, a guideline for the worst possible case, and two, the dates do jump. Once they catch up with that date, as you mentioned there, April the 1st, once they catch up with the applications up to April the 1st, the visa date will move. So it can move 6 months at a time. And we only need to concern ourselves with these dates when we get closer. So we don't even need to look at those until once we've got the labour certificate and once we've got the I-140 approval, then we look at the date. So by the time we get there, which is probably 12 to 15 months away from now, then we would look at what date it's on and see how close we are. That's that. So, I mean, I'm happy to discuss that. Please scan the code and let's book a meeting one-to-one, and we can go over your personal situation. It's hard to say without knowing where you're based, what your nationality is, or anything like that. So I can give you a little bit more detailed response on that question if we can speak one-to-one. Next question here. Please kindly give information on how much do the unskilled jobs pay annually. Okay, yeah, so the jobs pay anything from $36,000 to $40,000 a year, depending on the type of job and the area which the job is in. As I mentioned before, you can choose a job in Indianapolis, Indiana, Allentown, Pennsylvania, or San Bernardino, California. Obviously, the cost of living in California is a little bit more, so they do pay a little bit better there. But as I said, this is a temporary solution at the beginning. It's there to start you off, and once you've started your job and you've settled your family, you are within your rights to go find a more skilled role or a more suitable role, or even start your own business. There's no problem with that. Do I have any more questions here? Let me just check. I have a few questions please put your questions on the chat box or the Q&A. I have a few questions that were sent to me before the webinar, which I'm happy to go over. A lot of you sent questions, which I'll try and get through as well. The first one was, what are the new changes under Trump? We've already discussed that. If anyone missed anything, we will send out a copy of the webinar, so you can have a copy if it had been recorded. So we will send you that. Even better still, book a meeting with me and we can discuss that one-to-one. But we have discussed the Trump administration and how it doesn't affect EB3 at all. What's the age limit of the program? Okay, to start the program, you must be 18 years old if you're a single applicant. However, if you are, there's no upper age limit. I'm 55 years old and I'm still eligible to apply for this. And we've taken people of 60 plus. But your children must be 21 before we apply for the consulate visit. So ideally, it would be anybody under 20 would be fine as we speak now. If they're under 20 years old, then they're good to start this application now. What will be my role, job, based on my qualification and experience? No, not at all. It's the same for everybody. Obviously, we would want your qualifications and experience, and we'd be happy to review that. But of course, this is an unskilled route, so the jobs provided will be general warehouse, office work, auditing, packaging, something like that within a distribution sort of company that we work with, and it's there to start you off. I mean, we only need one main applicant, so either you or your spouse can take the job. Now, the other one, this is another point worth mentioning here. When you go over as a family of 4 and we have one main applicant, only the main applicant needs to start the main job. The spouse can start work straight away in any skilled role because they also obtain their green card at the same time. So this is, again, a good reason for us to chat and book a meeting so we can discuss who would be better placed to take this job. I mean, the job's a means to an end. Although it's a serious job and you must take it seriously to start with, you know, it is a means to an end. We need this job offer to get the process done. A skilled route is really very difficult, and we really can't, you know, we don't offer that because in my 15 years, I've never seen anyone achieve it. Because, you know, it really is difficult for the American employers to, one, be bothered to explain why it's better to offer you a job over an American, or two, impossible to even demonstrate that. I've had lawyers, doctors all try to do this, and it's very difficult for you to prove why you are a better lawyer than the next guy. So we try and admit that issue by going down the unskilled route and, you know, getting everybody through, and getting, the objective here is to get green cards for everybody. Do we offer flight, air tickets and accommodation? No, of course not. Depending on where you live, I mean, it's your responsibility. Our job is to get you a green card and a job to start you off in the United States. That's what you're paying your money for a good, stress-free route and the green card intact for you and your family. Where you live is completely up to you. And obviously getting there is up to you. Our job is making sure that when you get there, you're there legally and you're there with a job and ready to go. So no, we don't offer those bits and bobs like flights and accommodation. What is your office success rate? We've already gone over that. It is 100%. Very proud to be 100%, but we are very fussy about who we take on this journey with us. You know, we don't just give these jobs to anybody. So we want to make sure we vet you. We go over through the qualifying questions, and also a background check for everybody to make sure that, you know, there's nothing standing in your way to complete it. We do nothing worse than starting an immigration process. You've paid money, you've signed a contract, and then 6 months later we uncover that you robbed a bank. And you think, oh, well, you robbed the bank in 1982. You've got no chance. So we want to make sure there's none of that going on. And we, you know, you're absolutely clear, and we, you know, we can finish what we start. How do I become a US citizen? Yes, I wasn't very clear on that. Let's just go over that again. So to become a US citizen, first of all, when you land in the country, you will receive your green card, which is permanent residence, and you will be treated like an American citizen. You can do everything an American citizen can do. You can use their schooling. You will get local rates on universities. You will qualify for medical aid and stuff like that. The only thing you can't do is vote because you're not a citizen. But if you want to get a citizenship, When you land, if you land as a family of four, and let's say, I'll give an example, one of you wants to carry on running your business back in your home country, that's fine. You can collect your green card and go back to your country. But the main applicant has to stay, and the children will be put into school, and the main applicant will stay. And your clock for citizenship will start individually. So once you've stayed in America for 6 months of the year, for 5 years in a row, the clock will stick. Once you've done that, you can apply for an American citizenship, an American passport. If you're jumping in and out of the country, and you're not really settling, your clock will stay still. It will only start moving once you've settled. And what I mean by settled is own a house or have a long-term rental contract, have a job, pay taxes, be in school, whatever it is, and you're settled in America and you can prove that, and you stayed in America for 6 months of the year, for 5 years in a row, then your clock will start ticking to that point. So hopefully that was clear. But happy again to meet one-to-one and go over more detail. Click the QR code or scan the QR code and book a meeting with me. Anything else in here that I need to answer? How long does the EB3 process take? Again, it does vary. It can be as fast as 24 months, but it could take as long as 36 months, depending on your case, where you are, what consulate you're using, and also the visa bulletin, which we talked about in brief. Also, it's good to mention clients and how motivated you are. I mean, this is what we do for a daytime job, right? And this is what we do every day, all day, and we're ready to go when you are. Sometimes clients can take time. When we ask for birth certificates, we want the birth certificates. I mean, I've got cases where clients say, yeah, I'm ready to go. You ask for a birth certificate and they say, oh, I've lost it, I can't find it. And we're 3 months later, we still haven't had it. And, that adds time, So as long as we're both motivated, it will take 24 to 36 months. I think we've got a few more questions online. How long will I have to stay in that job that we've provided? Okay, so there is no law in the United States that states that you have to be in there for any particular time, whether it's 1 day or 25 years. So by law, once you've started that job, you've completed the transaction. You've got your visa, you've started the job, and you're doing that with a good heart. Realistically, though, most clients probably take 6 to 12 months before they move on. That's really because of being realistic, because you're going to a new country, you're going to set the kids into school, you're going to find somewhere to live, find a car, get your bearings. So it's going to take a few months for you to get settled and think, okay, I've got some money coming in. Now let's start thinking about what I want to do for a living. Do I want to stay in this job, or do I want to go and find something more suitable, skilled, or do I want to start a business? So there's no time limit on the job. The job is there, and it's the reason that we got the green card, but it's not attached to it. So, leaving the job role won't affect your green card. It's not tied to the visa. So it's the reason you got it, but it's not tied to it. Need to be clear about that. So as long as you have documented proof and a reason for leaving this job, there's nothing that can stand in your way. And obviously our lawyers are on hand, and we're on hand to help you make that transition once you've got there and you've decided to leave. In terms of the interview at the consulate office, will I have to take him in my homeland country? Not so much your homeland country, the country that you are residing in. So if you are Nigerian living in the UK, you would use the United Kingdom consulate. So you don't have to go back to any country that you're from. You just need to go to the US consulate that you're staying in. If you are already in America, then you don't have to use the consulate. You just need to apply for a change of status. Whatever status you're on, you change it to green card, which we will help you with, which we will do for you, of course. Please can I give a detailed cost breakdown for the 3 installment payment in specific? Okay, so let's say you're a family of, I'm going to use a family of 4 as a standard basic family. So you're a standard family of 4. The main applicant is $45,000. Then your spouse is $3,000 and your children are $3,000 each. That's what makes $54,000 for a family of 4. Now we do have some room to maneuver, but as a guideline, 54,000 split into 3 would make it 18, 18, 18. 3 equal payments. We can change that, and we can start for as little as 15 and move that 3,000 later on. But as a rule in your mind, if you think 3 equal payments, that's probably best as a guideline as to what we would need. You'd need the first installment to start and get the labour certificate done. Once we get the labour certificate in 12 months, you make the second payment and we start your green card application. And once we achieve that, you pay the third installment, and then we book your place at the consulate, and then off we go. So that's how it would work, and that's how the cost is. 45,000 main applicant, 3,000 per family member in 3 equal installments over the 2 or 3 year period. Someone's asked about the age limit again. There's no age limit. You've got to be 18 to start. There's no upper age limit, and your children must be under the age of 21 when we make the consulate appointment. Is there any more questions? I can't see any more. I think I've answered all of those. What's this? Q&A. Let's have a look at here. Upon arrival, are members of the family allowed to take on jobs from other employers? Absolutely. Great question. Yes, absolutely. So as I tried to explain before, I think I did touch on it, but as a family of 4, there'll be, mother and father, you will get there, and the main applicant will start the job that we've provided. The other adult here, or 18-year-old child, would be able to start a job, any job in the USA, providing they're qualified and they are, skilled labour, unskilled labour. Absolutely. A green card is permanent residence, which means you're allowed to work and you're allowed to live there. So yeah, absolutely. Can I please share the recording afterwards? Absolutely. Our admin team will be in touch and with everybody who's attended, and they will share either documentation or this video, so you can refer to it. No problem at all. Can I break down the family composition again and the payment amounts? I've just done that, so hopefully you got that. If not, if you've missed it, please use the QR code to book a meeting with me one-to-one. Scan your phone, it will take you to my diary, select a date, and I'll meet you on Zoom, me and you. Kindly share the recording. How long is the green card valid? 5 or 10 years? Good question. The green card is valid for 10 years. However, it is permanent resident, but the physical card is valid for 10 years. It's like a driving license. So it will have a picture of you on the card. And after 10 years, you need to renew that picture. It's as simple as that. It's not a full new application to get a new green card. It's just updating your details and getting a new card issued. However, you shouldn't really need the green card for longer than 10 years because you can reach citizenship in 5. So you shouldn't really need it for that long. However, if your intention is to get the green card and then go back home, which is fine, you can, but you must visit America at least once or twice a year to keep the green card active. So what happens to a child or children who are over 20 years old? Well, they're classed as adults and they're classed as non-dependents. They can do their own program. They're over 18, so they can start their own EB3. It will cost $45,000 per child, per 20-year-old. So if your children are over 20, unfortunately, they're classed as adults and they must go their own route. So you would have to do your program, and your 20-year-old would have to do their program. Unfortunately, there's no way around that. That's the way it is, I'm afraid. Please share the recordings. Yes, absolutely. I missed some points that you talked about. Well, if you miss some points, we can share the program, no problem at all. But you can scan that QR code and me and you can talk directly and we can discuss this again, where we can discuss your family structure and any issues you might have or any questions you might have one-to-one. Happy to do that. I do thank you for listening and thank you for your questions and thank you for your attendance, and have a wonderful day going forward. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.